بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Israel has yet again used its military might to kill and destroy the lives of many thousands of innocent civilians in Palestine, children, women and old people. Israel's carpet bombing of Gaza has caused numerous casualties, utter devastation and unimaginable misery. Innocent Palestinians are the immediate and direct target and the most affected victims of Israel's ongoing terror. But over the decades, Israel has caused another kind of devastating damage that has affected the world as a whole. This damage has been growing and getting more dangerous every day, but much more so with every new military campaign that Israel launches to maintain its occupation of Palestine and continue its killing, subjugation and humiliation of the Palestinians. The global damage becomes clear when we note the following fact. Never in history before has a state, nation or dictatorship succeeded in coercing or convincing this many governments, organizations, groups and individuals to actively support, passively approve of or stay silent on genocide, ethnic cleansing, mass killing and treating civilians as legitimate collateral damage. I'm going to repeat this point because it's the main point of this video. Never, ever before in history has a state, nation, or dictatorship succeeded in forcing or convincing this many governments, organizations, religious groups, political groups, all kinds of interest groups and individuals to actively support, passively approve of, or stay silent on genocide, ethnic cleansing, mass killing and treating civilians as legitimate collateral damage. But let me expand this a little more. Throughout history, there have always been states and individuals that managed to find support for their aggression against nations, with supporters usually seeking some temporary gains or trying to avoid harm to themselves. But such support for an unjust and powerful state or ruler was always very limited in scale and often in duration too. Israel has achieved something that no previous oppressor has ever done. It has made many governments, political parties, religious groups and individuals, mainly in the West, unconditionally support it as it systematically wipes Palestine out of the world map, destroying a whole people with their land, history and culture. By securing this much support for its decades-long terrorism and criminality against Palestine, Israel has damaged the moral standards and the very concept of human rights in the world in a way that is unprecedented in history. It has spread moral corruption, double standards and hypocrisy well beyond its borders, infecting life, culture and politics in the West in particular, but elsewhere as well, not least where Islamophobia is widespread. This damage is extremely difficult to reverse or contain. It will have long-lasting consequences which will be felt as much by those who supported or were complicit in Israel's crimes as those who oppose them. Think, for example, of how difficult it is to teach a child or young people basic human rights such as the right to life and the right to equality, when they listen to complete condemnation of violation of a human right by, for instance, Russia and Ukraine, but at the same time praise and support for an identical action when it's perpetrated by Israel against its occupied Palestinian population. Israel's crimes are even celebrated by some. The standard justification of Israel's action is to call on the horror of the Holocaust and the suffering caused by anti-Semitism. But this could only mean that one's victimhood justifies victimizing others, and that opens the door for all kinds of horrible parallels. Would it be acceptable for Muslims to kill innocent non-Muslims because Muslims suffer Islamophobia from some non-Muslims? Would it be okay for black people to kill innocent white people because they suffer racism from some white people? Of course not. This is the dilemma of double standards that Israel has infected the world with. This moral confusion, which can only engender immorality, is one aspect of Israel's evil legacy, a legacy that transcends the land of Palestine and our time. The Quran and the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ praised good legacies and condemned evil legacies. This is one such saying by the Prophet, peace be upon him. من سن سنة حسنة فعمل بها بعده كان له أجرها ومثل أجورهم من غير أن ينقص من أجورهم شيئا ومن سن سنة سيئة فعمل بها من بعده كان عليه وزره ومثل أوزارهم من غير أن ينقص من أوزارهم شيئا. This may be translated as, whoever introduces a good practice that's followed after him will have a reward for that and the equivalent of the rewards of those who followed it, without that reducing their reward in the slightest. Whoever introduces an evil practice that's followed after him will bear the burden of sin for that and the equivalent of the burden of sin of those who followed it, without that reducing their burden in the slightest. This hadith is found in Sunan Ibn Majah and Darimi and others. Individuals and groups are responsible for whatever influence they have on others, good or bad. This does not diminish the culpability of those who follow evil practices or reduce the reward of the followers of good practices. The Quran repeatedly and explicitly states that all of a person's actions are recorded by Allah and will be used on the day of judgment to judge that person. One of those verses has a reference to the accountability for one's legacy and its impact on others. This reference is usually missed, but I'll cite now the verse in the question and speak about that. This is the verse. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. إنا نحن نحيي الموت ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. This may be translated as, indeed it is we who bring the dead to life and record what they did and that which they left behind, and we have compiled everything in a clear register. This is from the chapter of Yasin, number 36, verse 12. The word that concerns us here is atharhum, which I've translated as that which they left behind. Atharhum is the plural of athar, which means anything that one leaves behind, physical or non-physical. So this verse confirms the meaning of the hadith I've just cited. We are responsible for what we do and also for the legacy that our actions leave behind us. The legacy that Israel has created for generations to come is an extreme and unprecedented form of what the Quran describes as fasad, that is, moral corruption. Israel is a small state and it could not have created this level of moral decadence on its own. Its historically unparalleled enterprise of immorality has been proactively and strongly advanced by governments, political leaders, interest groups, religious fanatics, and others whose interests are aligned with Israel's racist aspirations, policies, and actions. Hypocrisy is a devastating disease for individuals, society, and humanity at large. This is why the Quran repeatedly and strongly condemned it. Look, for instance, at this verse, which is perfectly applicable to Israel and its supporters. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. المنافقون والمنافقات بعضهم من بعض يأمرون بالمنكر وينهون عن المعروف ويقبضون أيديهم نسوا الله فنسيهم إن المنافقين هم الفاسقون. This may be translated as, the hypocrite men and hypocrite women are all alike. They enjoin what's wrong and forbid what's right, and they close their hands from charity. They have forgotten Allah, so He has forgotten them. Indeed, the hypocrites are the transgressors. This is from the chapter of Tawbah, that's number 9, verse 67. Instead of calling for good and forbidding evil, hypocrites do the exact opposite when their interests dictate that. The Prophet also repeatedly warned against hypocrites. This is one such hadith. من شر الناس ذو الوجهين الذي يأتي هؤلاء بوجه وهؤلاء بوجه. This may be translated as, among the worst of all people is the double-faced person who comes to some people with one face and to other people with another face. This hadith is from Bukhari, Malik, and other sources. Now, to be sure, hypocrisy was not invented by Israel, of course. Hypocrisy has always contaminated human behavior. However, Israel has promoted and taken this destructive disease to a completely new level, spreading it across the world and furthermore normalizing it. This is one legacy that Israel and its supporters will have to answer for on the day of judgment, while they and the rest of humanity suffer its consequences in this world. The Palestinian people have suffered unimaginable misery at the hands of Israel, but the whole of humanity is also the victim of this immoral, fanatical, rogue state. Thank you for watching. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.